The Renaissance was a period immediately following the Middle Ages in Europe, which saw a great revival of interest in the classical learning and values of ancient Greece and Rome. The style of painting, sculpture, and decorative arts identified with the Renaissance emerged in Italy in the late 14th century, and it reached its peak in the late 15th and early 16th centuries. Renaissance art sought to capture the experience of the individual and the beauty and mystery of the natural world. Donato da Nicola di Bettobardi, also known as Donatello, was an Italian Renaissance sculptor who worked mostly with marble and bronze. Donatello was born in Florence, Italy in 1386 and died at the age of 80 in 1466. He did not marry and had no children. Donatello's initial work followed a Gothic style with long graceful lines and expressionless faces, but he soon began to develop a style all his own with figures much more dramatic and emotional. Having received a commission from the Linen Drapers Guild of Florence, Donatello sculpted St. Mark out of marble. The statue stands at 236 centimeters in height and was to be placed in Orson Michel. Knowing that the statue would be viewed from below, Donatello elongated St. Mark's torso, shortened his legs, and enlarged his head and hands. This made it seem proportionate when viewed from the proper angle. When finished, St. Mark was regarded as a near-perfect embodiment of the artistic ideals emerging during the early Renaissance. However, upon being unveiled to the guild, its members were less than happy with the statue's lack of proportion and insisted that Donatello make adjustments. To pacify them, Donatello placed a cloth over the statue for 2 weeks and pretended to work on it, and when it was placed in its place and unveiled, the guild members declared it perfect. In 1450, Donatello completed the St. John, which was to be placed on the facade of Santa Maria de Fiore in the tabernacle at the side of the central door. This statue represents one of the clearest examples of how perspective is achieved. Just like St. Mark, to offset the apparent distortion that would result from the statue being seen from below, the evangelist's body had been made disproportionately long for its legs and thighs, which project little from the surface of the statue. It was made out of marble and had a height of 210 centimeters. St. George was constructed in 1417 for a lesser guild in Orson Michel, and thus was not allowed to be crafted in expensive, prestigious bronze. So, Donatello created it using marble. Scholars are united in their admiration for the St. George, but are divided only when it comes to evaluating the significance of the statue to Donatello and the Florentine people. In 1430, Donatello made David out of bronze. David was considered a hit during the time for its unique freestanding construction and bronze composition. In Donatello's life and the century after, the statue of David was mainly applauded by the art world. However, in the 16th century, when the Herald of the Signoria commented that David is not a perfect figure because its right leg is tasteless, the David became open to interpretation. For instance, many scholars have noted with interest the way a curl of Goliath's spear has found its way between 2 of David's sandal-clad toes. This led to interpretations such as Donatello being openly homosexual, and the beard and foot interaction was meant to convey his sexuality. The high altar of St. Anthony was created in the years 1447 through 1450 using bronze. It was composed of a total of 29 pieces of sculpture, 7 freestanding statues, 4 bas reliefs with miracles of St. Anthony, 4 bas reliefs with the symbols of the evangelists, another bas relief of the dead Christ, 12 reliefs with musician angels, and finally a relief in Nanto stone depicting the entombment. Never before had architecture played an important role in narrative relief scenes. Unfortunately, at the end of the 16th century, Donatello's altar was taken out to make way for another. It wasn't until 1895 when Donatello's altar was reconstructed. In 1453, Donatello made the Gattamelata out of bronze. The Gattamelata was famous for its departure from traditional equestrian statue subjects, kings and other rulers. Denardi had died in his 70s, but Donatello sculpted him as he was in his prime. Donatello also did not make the statue larger than life, as was common in classical equestrian statues. The Gattamelata was made using the lost wax method, which was standard at the time for bronze statues, but he incorporated an individualism and emotional quality with which other sculptors had yet to experiment. Despite the faint controversy caused by the statue's subject, the Gattamelata came to be regarded as one of Donatello's most important works. Manolo Valdes was born in Valencia in 1942. He attended the San Carlos Academy of Fine Arts, where he met Rafael Solbes and John Toledo, who together founded Equipo Cronica in 1964. The Equipo Cronica dissolved in 1981, and Valdes began a solo career with a studio in New York City. The early part of Valdes's career was heavily influenced by American pop art with its strong political and often humorous statements. This early influence later grew into a play on classical and iconic imagery. Strongly influenced by Renaissance masters such as Rembrandt or Goya, Valdes employed some of their iconic imagery and style to create modern interpretations of their work, layering the images with collage and diverse artistic references. Regina II is from the exhibit Manolo Valdes Monumental Sculpture on Broadway. It was created in 2010 using bronze and depicts a woman's calm facial features being offset by dynamic ornamental headpieces. The acacia, butterflies, fior, alhambra, and ivy, on the other hand, are part of Manolo Valdes's exhibit titled Manolo Valdes Monumental Sculpture, located in the New York Botanical Gardens and Marlborough Gallery. He created new monumental sculptures that responded directly to the garden's plant collections and drew inspiration from the garden's natural landscape, which can be seen in the headdress, which include ferns, oak and maple leaves, windblown palms, and butterflies. Valdes said that he preferred not to use bronze because of the risk of it turning green due to its exposure to the elements. Instead of using bronze as a main sculpture, Valdes used bronze only in the pedestals. He then used aluminum for much of the sculptural work because of its shine and reflective qualities, and quartz and steel, which provides a rust-colored tint that he believed would complement the surrounding colors. The medium used for acacia, butterflies, and ivy are aluminum, while fior is made using bronze and quartz and steel. Alhambra's 50-foot headdress is made out of bronze and quartz and steel and pays tribute to Spain's historic Alhambra in Granada, with its stunning Moorish gardens and architecture dating to the 10th century.